If you like this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is my original story, Disappearing Students. Danny, another student has gone missing today. My best friend Adam yelled at me. What the heck is going on around here? I shouted. Dunno, man. Rumor has it, Miss Hrabowski is kidnapping children at our middle school and selling their kidneys in Thailand, he answered. Living in a town as small as ours, I think somebody would have seen something and told the sheriff by now, I replied. Yeah, you're right. Kids are probably just coming down with that mono thing, he said. Well, the bell's about to ring, so let's go to class now, I said as we walked down the hallway. Adam was my best friend. Couldn't find a better friend than him. In fact, our parents were friends before we were even born. They always joked we met inside our mother's bellies. He'd do anything for me, and I'd do anything for him. He was a true friend, through and through. During Miss Donaldson's class, I could see something was bothering her. She usually was all bright and jittery as she taught us about American history, but today something was clearly eating away at her. Then, in the middle of class, Spencer, whom the kids call Spazzy Spence due to his ADHD, blurted out, Miss D, is it true that Mr. Hrabowski is stealing children and sending them to Thailand? That's nonsense, Spencer, and you should apologize to him for even mentioning something so absurd within these walls. I personally know Mr. Hrabowski. He's a man of family and God. Students are just getting sick with something. I'm not sure exactly why. Now let's get back to why America entered World War II, she said, scolding the students. She seemed to be bothered by something. I think everyone in class knew that day Miss D was lying through her teeth, and something crazy was happening in our little sleepy town, yet nobody had any idea why. The rest of class was boring, dragged on until the end of the day. Finally, the last bell rang, and like always, Adam and I hopped on our daily bus ride home, back to the other side of the county. It was a fairly long bus ride, about 40 minutes long to be exact, so there was lots of time to mess around with my friends. We passed through the center of town, actually more like one small strip of shops for a few blocks. As we passed by the old antique shop, I noticed the front door was smashed, and it had police tape put up in front. I figured it out for real this time, Danny boy. The guy that killed the old Asian woman running the antique shop is on a murdering spree. That's why all the students are going missing. Wait, so that's what happened to the antique shop? I was just wondering about that, I replied. Yeah, some guy went in the middle of the night to rob the place, but the poor woman was sleeping in the back room, and he killed her, Adam answered as he fidgeted around in his seat. So that crazy guy has been killing all the missing students, I gasped. A nerdy-looking kid from the seat behind chimed in. Actually, he was brought into custody immediately after the incident. He's currently incarcerated in the county jail, awaiting pre-trial. The silent alarm was triggered when the man broke through the front door. The woman actually lived in the apartment connected to the back store. Apparently, it was one of the most horrifying crime scenes the investigators have ever seen. Thanks for your news, Poindexter, but you really shouldn't be eavesdropping on us, Adam said. He was really annoyed. Sorry, he replied. So I guess I'm wrong again, but man, that woman was strange. She couldn't speak a word of English. Nobody knew where in Asia she was from, and she had all these weird ritual objects in the back. Adam whispered in my ear. Then the bus stopped, and we both got off at our stop. The next day at school was business as usual, but I could see Adam was sneaking around, almost like he was getting to the bottom of the whole situation. During lunch in the cafeteria, he pulled me aside so we could talk with some secrecy. He told me that he had been sneaking around the school snooping on people. The son of a gun really hid in the bushes outside the principal's office and heard a conversation with one of the missing students' parents. He was able to do this because the principal's office window was open and on the main floor. Adam heard the mom of the student say her daughter received a text message from the number 444-4444, and after that she hadn't spoken a word to anyone or barely moved. They're trying to get her admitted to a mental hospital, but don't have insurance. She also said something about her being in some sort of catatonic state, but we didn't know what that word even meant. Adam said it sounded like they were trying to figure something out, like if a student was bullying her or type of thing. The weird thing was, the text message she got from that number didn't even have any words or anything. Adam was clearly freaked out. He explained everything he heard from the parents, and we ate lunch together, not even saying anything to each other. The rest of the day passed by, and Adam and I were back on the same bus in the same seat at the same time. As I watched the cornfields pass by through the bus window, I noticed Poindexter sitting behind us again. Hey, I'm sorry for teasing you on the bus yesterday and calling you Poindexter. I felt bad for what I did. It's okay, I get it a lot. By the way, my name's Chris. Nice to meet you, Chris. I have a question for you. Do you know anything about the number 4? I needed information, and he would be the best person to get it from. Well, yes, it's considered a very unlucky number in China. They don't use it for elevators, addresses, or phone numbers. If you even say that number in front of a person, they will probably never talk to you again. Also, in rural China, the murder rate is almost 0 because if you kill somebody, everyone believes they will come back and haunt the peasants in the village. The only way to not get possessed is to play dead in front of the demon. According to the legend, the demon is so horrifying, even one view of it, and you'll be in a vegetative state for the rest of your life. The human brain just can't handle that magnitude of fear and trauma, Chris confidently explained as he touched the center of his glasses while pushing them closer to his face. Well, good thing ghosts aren't real, Adam murmured, but everyone was quiet for the rest of the bus ride. In the distance, I noticed a large storm was rolling in just as we passed by the old antique shop. Adam and I got off the bus at our usual stop and said our goodbyes as we parted ways. By the time the storm was just starting to slam down with full force, and boy, was it big. I got inside my house just before I totally got soaked to the bone. I walked over to my room and started doing my math homework because we had a big test tomorrow. I laid out my book, pencil, eraser, and phone on the desk and began to study. After finishing the first chapter in the textbook, I heard my phone vibrate. Adam must have replied to my message. I needed help with question 4. I opened the message on my phone and it was blank. Nothing. Why would Adam send me this? As I looked at the sender, I dropped my phone in complete fear. A burning feeling entered my stomach. The lights flickered as thunder crashed in the background. The number that sent me the message was 444-4444. There was nothing I could do. Even if I told my parents a ghost was coming for me, they would never let it go. I would be hearing on my wedding day how, as a teenager, I was scared of ghosts. Or worse, they would send me to some sort of religious camp in Puerto Rico to finish the rest of my schooling because I was possessed by the devil. I decided to just go to bed and forget all about this. It was getting late anyways, and I was exhausted. Besides, ghosts weren't real, and Adam was probably playing a joke on me. The fool probably found some app in the Play Store that changes the way your phone numbers appear, so he could change his number to anything. I wasn't going to be fooled by this, and I was the one that usually pranked the crap out of Adam. But this was pretty good. I laid in my bed, dozing off to the sound of rain splashing against the window and patchy waves. The occasional flash of lightning lit up my room like it was daytime for a split second. I suddenly woke up. The alarm clock said 2:04 a.m. Something was at my door. I played dead. I was almost paralyzed in fear regardless. The door slowly opened as I was trying not to open my eyes or move. Something was entering my room, and I heard a clacking sound. I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to open my eyes and scream for my parents. "Danny, sorry to wake you up. I'm just checking the light switch to see if the power is off in the whole house or if it's just one blown fuse." "I hope I didn't scare you, darling," my mom chuckled softly, and I was highly annoyed. I pretended I was sleeping and didn't hear her. My mom can be annoying sometimes, and I was quite embarrassed. I instantly went back to sleep, but I was soon awoken again. I came out of my sleep to a strange noise. There was a shuffling in the corner of the room, but this time it wasn't my mom. Soft footsteps crept closer and closer towards my bed. My heart started banging against my ribs as if it was trying to escape. The only thing I could do was lie in bed with the covers across my chest. I was motionless with my eyes closed. The soft steps were almost right next to my bed, and I heard the floor gradually creaking beside me. A cold breath sprayed across my face, terrifying me. It was within inches of my uncovered face. Drops of cold saliva dripped onto my face, making it harder and harder not to move or open my eyes. I heard something next to my head. Then, I felt something touch my ear. It got right next to my ear and slowly chanted gibberish. It was like if somebody was quietly speaking in tongues into my ear. I couldn't take it any longer. At any moment, I was going to open my eyes and see what was in front of me. It took its leathery cold hands and stroked the side of my face as its long, dirty nails slightly scraped my face. The demon made a raspy sound as it chattered its teeth. It seemed as if it looked thriving on taking its next victim. The fiend then tightly grasped my wrists and quietly hissed, "Look at me." It had a drawn-out tone of voice and spoke in a strange accent. A hard object started to press into my chest right above my heart. I felt light flashing outside my closed eyelids. I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to lose this game. I opened my eyes and let out the most blood-curdling scream known to man. The first thing I saw was my mom jump up. She was standing at the light switch, turning off the light. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you like that." The power just came back on, and I left the light switch on in your room by accident. I didn't want to ruin your sleep, since you have a big test tomorrow. What were those weird noises you were making in your sleep? She seemed like she heard the noises too. It had to be real. I don't know, Mom, but regardless, you've scared the heck out of me. I'm going to sleep on the couch in your room tonight. I was barely able to keep myself calm. I was trying not to shake as much as possible. Okay, honey, she said. That night, I did not sleep for even 1 second. The thought of whatever that thing was kept me awake the whole night. Any one of us in that small town were fair game at that point. The next morning, I went to take a shower. I noticed a long scrape running across my face where that thing touched me. Unfortunately, it wasn't a nightmare. It was a real nightmare. Right before I left for school that morning, the phone rang, and I heard my mom talking with Adam's mom on the phone. Something happened to Adam last night. Maybe he wasn't so lucky. I quickly shoveled my cereal into my mouth and ran out the door to catch the school bus. I couldn't stop thinking about why such a horrible thing would happen to our little farming town. When I arrived at school for first period class, Adam's seat was empty. I shuffled towards my desk and sat down as the bell rang. Miss D, is it true that Adam was kidnapped too? Is that why he's missing today? Spazzy Spence blurted out in his usually uncontrollable fashion. Shut up, I burst out. I was furious. Stop it, you two, shouted Miss D as she ran out of the classroom and slammed the door. The faint sound of crying could be heard outside the door. She soon entered back into the classroom. He's sick, just like the rest of the other students, she said with no emotion as she took out a tissue from her pocket and wiped her eyes. Class, open your math books to chapter 5. It's time to review fractions, she muttered, trying to bring herself together. Everyone in the classroom could tell Miss D knew something about what was going on, but she couldn't tell us. Why else would such a good teacher get so upset over this? Miss D never showed anger or sadness, and always acted professionally. Halfway through the class, somebody tapped on my shoulder and passed me a note. Meet me behind the large trees in the schoolyard at lunch was neatly written on the paper with the signature of Chris at the bottom. As I walked through the schoolyard, the kids were all just sitting around in groups with worried expressions on their faces. Nobody was playing. There was only hopelessness and fear in the schoolyard. I could see Chris standing behind the group of trees at the back of the playground. It's much worse than I thought. He paused as he looked down. I could see his hands shaking. It visited my sister last night, and she won't talk to anyone or get out of bed, Chris said, holding back tears. I spent the whole morning before school researching rural Chinese customs and traditions, and apparently there's something we can do to fix this, he went on to say. What? I will do anything, I shouted. It won't be easy. Just tell me, I yelled. We need to proceed with what is called a forgiveness ceremony at the site where the transgression occurred, he confidently revealed. What does that even mean? Can you speak English? I cried out at him. To put it simply, we need to break into the Chinese woman's shop at 4:40 a.m. and do a seance, a kind of ritual to beg for forgiveness for our town. It's the only way to lift the curse on our friends and family. Please be strong. A lot of people are depending on us, he explained to me as he pushed up his glasses. Okay, meet me in front of the shop at 4 a.m. tonight, I suggested, and he agreed. Tonight will be the night we try to fix this insane mess, I said. The rest of the day at school, I just sat in my seat staring at the clock. I watched the second hand slowly budge to the next slot, as if it was struggling to move forward. The bell rang, telling everyone it was the end of school day, and we were all crowded in the hallway, making our way towards the buses. I sat down in my usual seat on the bus and watched the fields go by like always. When we made our way into the center strip of town, I noticed a few black vans parked along the street. It seemed very out of place in our rural community. As we drove past the woman's shop, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel somebody was watching me. Around 11 a.m., I went to bed, making it seem like everything was normal. I didn't want to let my parents know something was up. I ended up just lying in bed waiting for what seemed like years to pass. Finally, around 3, I slowly got out of bed, fully dressed to leave the house. I walked very carefully all the way down to the basement. I stepped away from the center of the stairs so they would not creak and wake up my parents. I approached our small basement window, opened it, and pulled myself out into the front lawn next to my house. I left my bike next to the side of our house yesterday after school. I got onto my bike, pushed the pedals as fast as they could go. The street lights started flickering as I rode past them. I felt an eerie chill run through my body. The road to the center of town was nearly pitch black and had farmland on either side. As I was riding my bike along the rural vacant road, I saw little flickering lights in the center of the road. I came up to a cow laying on the middle of the road. When I got closer, I could see lit candles surrounding it. It looked like some type of sacrifice with lines drawn around it in a star pattern. Suddenly, I heard the chattering of teeth. My heart skipped a beat. I heard the same gibberish from the creature the other night. My heart started pounding, and I got out of there as fast as possible. After biking a few miles, I stopped my bike. I wasn't strong enough to do this. I was just a kid, but I needed to do this for Adam. Soon enough, I arrived at the small downtown strip of our town. Psst, Chris whispered from an alleyway, close to the woman's shop. I walked into the alleyway and saw Chris holding a big black backpack. We locked up our bikes in the dark alleyway and began to walk out. Swiftly, I felt a hand grab me and throw me against the wall. A police car slowly passed by. Close call, Chris said. You can say that again, I answered as Chris grasped his black bag. I brought everything we need to perform the ritual in this bag, he assured. Okay, my hands were shaking. I got really nervous. Chris's head poked outside the alleyway, and he signaled the coast was clear. We dashed down the block into the alleyway behind the woman's shop. Behind the store was a small, unlit, dirty courtyard. There was a large wooden door with a strange red pattern on the door. It looked like it had some traditional Asian pattern carved onto it. There was a golden circle with 5 dragon heads and an X pattern. Rapidly, the dragon's eye began to glow, a deep purple color. We both jumped backwards. Keep calm, Chris said under his breath. The glow soon faded. Chris pulled 2 thin metal sticks out of his backpack and began to jiggle them around in the doorknob. After a few minutes of fiddling with the door handle, the door just popped open. There was a pitch-black alleyway leading into the main shop area that could be seen. The shop had old wooden floors that creaked as we slowly crept in. Chris pulled out a long candlestick and struck a match to light the candle. The main area of the shop still had police tape wrapped around a small area in front of the counter. The walls were dirty and brown and lined with dusty, tall shelves. The room vibrated and stopped. Then it happened again. Chris, I'm leaving. I quickly turned towards the back door, and Chris grabbed my arm. Be strong. We need to do this for Adam, my sister, and our whole town. He looked visibly shaken as well, but he put on a brave face. Chris, do you see that? A small dim-lit orb floated by us and started moving towards the cellar. Follow it, he said, and we began to go down a wooden spiral staircase into the cellar. The cellar was cold, moist, and pitch black with a short ceiling. The candle light made freaky shadows through the small stone room. Old cobwebs could be seen, while cockroaches scattered away from the candlelight. The orb gradually landed on the ground in the middle of the cramped cellar. Without warning, the door at the top of the stairs slammed shut, and the room vibrated again. Little bits of dust and stone fell from the ceiling and made little cracking noises as they hit the ground. We'll do it here, Chris said, as he set up a small board with letters on the ground. What are you doing? I paced back and forth. This is how we will communicate with it. He set up a rectangular piece of wood on the floor. The board had all the letters of the alphabet on it. It's called a Ouija board. He was digging through his backpack looking for something. He pulled out a small piece of wood with a clear glass circle in it. He put some stubby candles around the table, clutching the lighter. He started lighting them one by one and drew a star around the table. His hands were shuddering and sweat dripped from his face. The board jerked and startled us. It must be possessed, he said. He put the little piece of wood on the board. It moved towards the letter S and stopped. Then it moved to the letters A, C, R, I, F, I, C, and E. Sacrifice! I shrieked. Chris's face turned white as a sheet, and he did not say a word. This is worse than I thought. Chris was deeply thinking about something. According to the legends, the restitution will be an eye for an eye, a life for a life, he softly said. He was slightly weeping. I'm not doing it. I want to live, I firmly said. In that moment, I realized that even though my life was boring and meaningless, I wanted to live, experience, and achieve anything I wanted to. Strangely enough, at that point, I wanted to live so bad. It seemed like I had taken life for granted, and not actually lived my life. Ironically, I needed the threat of my life to be taken away to realize this. But you'll be a hero. This will give your life meaning and accomplishment. Chris was trying to convince me to do it. He looked scared and not willing to do it himself. The orb's moving, I shouted. The room shook again. The orb went into the wall, and a dark blue portal opened. The portal swished and bulged in a mix of dark blue colors. One of us needs to go in there, or both of us, and our whole town will be doomed, Chris stated as he started freaking out. Okay, I'll do it, I hesitated. If it saved Adam, I'll do it. If it will save my family, I'll do it. If it saves our town, I'll do it. A tear rolled down my cheek, and I said goodbye to the world I have come to know. my parents knew they'd be proud of me. Adam will get to live a happy life, marry, have children, work a nice office job. At least I did something for somebody else, not just living to serve myself. I will share your story with the world, I promise. Chris was bowing his head towards me. He put his hand on my back and said, I'm honored to meet you. I took a deep breath and readied myself to experience the end of my short life. I walked towards the portal when I heard teeth chattering behind me. The light sound of gibberish and speaking in tongues could be heard. Quickly, something clawed me from behind and threw me on the floor. It's here, Chris yelled. It wrapped its hands around my neck, and I felt long nails digging into my throat. Don't look at it! Don't open your eyes! It's disgusting! Chris screamed. Its cold breath blew into my face, and drops of freezing cold saliva fell onto my face. I was going to pass out from the fear. The beast choked me and yelled, "Look at me!" over and over again in an unhinged voice. I knew if I looked at it, I would be cursed. "Help me, Chris!" I gasped while being choked, but Chris didn't reply. Maybe he ran out of the room, or maybe he was instantly cursed by looking at it. This was the end of my life. It put its face inches from mine. I could feel the chilly air coming from it. Its nails dug deeper into my neck, and its fist gripped tighter. I started flailing my arms around, trying to punch it as hard as I could. I felt my senses fading when Chris started screaming like a warrior running into battle. Something exploded, and a large gust of wind moved towards the portal. I grabbed onto the stone floor to avoid being sucked in, and everything went black. When I came to, it was dawn. The first light of the day was shining into the building. I was confused. Was I in heaven? After a moment, I realized what Chris did. He ran into the portal and sacrificed himself. I honestly don't know if I would have followed through with it, but Chris became a true hero that day. I ran upstairs and out of the building. I made it home right before my parents woke up. I heard the phone ring from the other room. My mother gasped, and she started crying. Adam's normal again, she burst into my room, wiping tears from her eyes. I let out a sigh of relief. The ritual had worked. I gathered my books and got ready for school. Adam wasn't on the bus that morning. When I walked into school, Adam and everyone who had gone missing were sitting in their normal seats, like nothing had ever happened. Adam! I ran over and grabbed him. I had my best friend back. I was practically crying. I have so much to tell you since you left, I was sobbing. You'll have to tell me all about it. I can't remember a thing after passing out that night. He was still drowsy and kinda out of it. After explaining everything to Adam, the full story, in detail, he was completely shocked and deeply grateful for what I had accomplished. Although, the real hero was Chris. We never saw Chris again after that. His parents reported him missing and believed it was some sort of kidnapping incident. We built a memorial shrine for Chris in the forest behind our school. We told all the students what he did for the town, and he became a bit of a folk legend. Some say he went straight to heaven for his sacrifice. Oh, and the next day while we were on the school bus, we saw a new store open in the same location of the haunting. It was some kind of African voodoo antique store. If you like that story, please like and subscribe. And you can also download this story. It's part of a book, a 6-story collection of scary short stories called Demons Unite. It can be downloaded at www.wherethekingsrest.com. Thanks for listening.